Good evening, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Let me go ahead and take a look and see what's going on with Bitcoin for the day. So, taking a look at our daily candle, unfortunately, we did close below that support line that I was wanting us to close above. Our low was 64,629, and we closed about 65,065. So, not quite far away from that support line, but I did not want to see us lose that on the daily. That being said, honestly, this next candle is going to probably be very interesting. We did get a nice move to the downside, a nice wick to the downside, but I don't know if that's all there is to it for our low. Definitely, I'm painting a little bit more of a bearish sentiment for right now, just because of the day of the week it is. We are leading into Friday's candle, as well as leading into the weekend. So there is a potential that this could, I don't think we're going to dump a lot more, but we could close this either, barely above weekly open, or it could be like a slight bearish doji. The problem with that is if we get a bearish doji, or even, price action kind of closing like this on the weekly, this to me almost looks like some cat ears or a swing high. It does kind of give me a little bit of pause to maybe think that we might have some, bearish weeks ahead, basically. You never want to see that major wick to the upside, especially as, this has kind of been a downtrend. We had a nice three white soldiers reversal here, but this next candle I really wanted to see be an expansion candle. And obviously we did get way up here, but it's just not, it's showing a lot of resistance, and doesn't look like we're going to close up here, okay? That being said, I know that I've been kind of going over some of my targets that I've been looking at. Let's go ahead and dive into the 8 hour. So the 8 hour, unfortunately, now we're using the 21 as resistance, it looks like. Hopefully we don't close our candle like that. I hope that we do close this candle right here above 65,086. But if we do start using it as resistance, guys, we have to assume that there's a potential that we just get a straight up rollover. This could be another right shoulder right here, making a bigger head and shoulders type of pattern, okay? So I am going to be on the watch for that. I'm going to be watching the 8 hour closely. The 6 hour, we lost to 21. We're basically, right above the 50, which is a decent sign. But I definitely don't want to see us lose the 50. And I also, like I mentioned, I don't want to see us lose this weekly weekly candle open basically from last Sunday. So definitely want to, make sure that we keep that. 4 hours not looking bad. That's staying above the 50, which is basically Monday midnight open. Taking a look at the 1 hour, you can see that we're possibly getting a death cross. You're kind of getting the 21 and the 200 crossing into play. So there's a potential that this will be a rollover. You can kind of see kind of a shoulder, head, right shoulder right there to the downside. So that is a potential that could happen. I really don't like to see the potential death cross happen on the hour. So, if we do that, I'm looking for, a bounce potentially off of the 2 hour. I kind of mentioned this earlier, but the 2 hour, then the 3 hour, then the 4 hour potentially, okay? So, just kind of keep that in mind. Your next support zone is going to be down at 63,940. So if we do get that rollover, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Taking a look at the 30-minute here, you can see that we kind of had I think this might be actually a bearish 786 here. Let's take a look and see. So let me see here. Yeah, so it did hit a bearish 786, and we did get a rejection off of there. Not a great sign. That could lead you down into that 63,940 area. So just be cognizant of that, especially as we head into the weekend. We could definitely see a reversal for the rest of the days this week. So I don't want to see that happen, but just be aware that there's a potential that we could get a bearish reversal, for the end of this weekly candle. Taking a look at the 15-minute, you kind of had the potential to do a cup and handle, and it just completely failed. You kind of had this nice cup formation here. You started building out this handle, and then it just completely just fell through, right? Not something that you want to see if you're looking for a bullish cup and handle formation. But again, we're in a bearish sentiment right now because we did get rejected off of this 200 MA on these smaller time frames, as well as we also got rejected on the 8 hour. So there's a potential that stays that way, at least for right now, until we start building up more liquidity to the upside. That being said, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at the liquidity through Trading Different. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the 4 hour like I normally do. Haven't really seen too much of a change there. Obviously we took out that red area as far as liquidity goes, and we do see that there's a potential move to the downside. If we do lose this 200 MA on the 4 hour, there's pretty much a given that we're going to get down into the 60,000-ish range. I'm going to be targeting probably around 60,500, 60,600 area. Okay, so if we take a look here and we pull this fib, you can see that even we could possibly be targeting 61,000 first, and then even further down is about 60,200. So I would say we would even take out this yellow zone right here, even down into this green area. So that's basically what I'm targeting for as far as a 4 hour goes if we were to lose that 200 MA. Taking a look at the 1 hour, you can see that, we do still have a potential that we could get a little bit of a move up. I would probably honestly pull it from here for right now. Get this little tiny bit of liquidity here, which is right around 65,319. So that would be definitely an area I would be targeting potentially to the upside before we get that move down, if that were to happen. Basically wrecking some of the shorts before, we get that move down. And then finally taking a look at the 15-minute here. Let me pull up. So this is the 50 and the 100. So the 100, you can see that, again, it targets that nice 65,331 area. And then we could get that move down into the 63 zone is what it's telling me on the 15. But I'm targeting even further than that. If we check off the 50, you can see we could just go straight down into the 60,000 area. So I definitely see that there's a potential for a bearish move getting set up, guys, unfortunately. This could be a very good entry for a short right here around 65,300, but just be very mindful that there's a potential we could also get a move back up. Okay, so this is a high-risk trade, especially as we go into the weekend, but there is a potential that this could really play out to the downside, okay? So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at open market, which is our nice order book here. You do have more orders to the downside, as you can see. Your majority of your orders are around 64,300, so right near price action. You are starting to get some orders to the upside, but just keep in mind, guys, that these can get pulled at any given time. So I take this with a grain of salt. It really needs to be aligned and really used with liquidity, with our Trading Different tool. But it is nice to see some confluence there. So definitely could see us hit that 65.5-ish area, which is around 65.3, get rejected off of there, and then get that move down, right? With that being said, guys, let's go ahead and finally take a look at the simple map. So taking a look at the simple map, if I were to refresh this here, you can see how we do have a small bridge to the downside, but it is implying that we could potentially get a quick little move to the upside to around 65.3, which is that little impulse right there on the scalping time frames. So the scalping time frames, like your 5, your 15, your hourly, you could get up to 65.3 before that rejection down. So again, another area of confluence right there. And then your swing time frame is basically showing the same thing. I'm seeing 65.3 before we potentially get that move down. And we are closer to that huge area of liquidity down here rather than to the upside, right? We need to build that bridge back up to the upside to get back up there. And another thing I want to mention, guys, is from a timing perspective, we did hit our high for the week early on. So it does make sense from a timing perspective that we do get a mid to late week reversal to the downside, unfortunately. With that being said, guys, that is all I have for today. I hope you guys had a wonderful trading day, and I will talk to you all tomorrow. Take care.